So there is a current push really across our country, but especially in my state, to require doulas to achieve a certain standard certification. If you're not educated about this and if you're not aware of what it really means, you might get caught up in it and think it's the best thing and that it might work out to help you in your birth. But remember, pretty much everything about maternity that's broken right now came about the same way. They convinced us that something was for our good. But how's that worked out for us? I want you to understand the issue today so that you can understand how valuable that doulas are, regardless of their certification, and how this issue threatens their autonomy in the same way that certification has threatened and even taken away the autonomy of midwives over history in many locations, including most of the states in this great union. I know this doesn't necessarily seem like a topic that's going to help you in your birth. Maybe you're listening to, learn things that you need to know to help you have a better birth. But this is one of those issues that we can kind of overlook and think it doesn't apply to us and it's no big deal and somebody else will sort it out. But down the road, it's going to impact us or our daughters. So I want to help you understand it so that you can be active if you want to be, and even if you don't want to be active, so that you can support the doulas that you know and that you hire in whatever way that you can. Let's go. To start off today, it is review time, and I want to apologize because last week I totally forgot review time. I had no reason not to do one except for I just straight up forgot. And I remembered it after I'd recorded and I just didn't want to go back and add one. So forgive me. Today's review comes from Carmela Hennessy back in February. She said, "Do yourself a favor and follow Lori today." The review says, "I am hooked. I have searched and searched for a platform that unapologetically and boldly addresses truth in all aspects. Lori encourages you to critically think about the subjects she presents in order for you to make the most important decision, the most informed decision. Keep doing what you're doing. You are the beacon of light and hope so many people need. Blessings to you and your family, and blessings to you, Carmela. Thank you so much, and I apologize if I'm saying that wrong, but thank you so much for taking the time to leave me a review. If you haven't left me a review yet, if you would take quick 30 seconds, head over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a quick 5-star written review. It sure would help me, helps encourage me, and it also helps me find other mamas just like you who would benefit from the content that I share here. You might notice a difference in scenery. I have a new office and there's a little bit more echo in here. So I'm going to work on that, finding ways to improve that. You're going to see the microphone in the shot now, so it's closer to my mouth to make it a little bit less echoey. Forgive me, working out the quirks. This happens every time you have a new location. You just kind of have to feel your way through. So this is not a big operation if you haven't figured that out. This is just me trying to help you all with your births. So forgive me for the echo, but without further ado, let's get into our content for today, because this is an issue that is really brewing in a lot of places. Obviously, specifically in Tennessee right now, that's why it's been brought to my attention, but Tennessee is not the only state dealing with this. And if you aren't dealing with it in your state, you may be soon. So I want you all to be aware of this. Um, and I want you to be aware of it, thinking about it through the lens of certification is often seen as something that makes people more valid or lends credibility to how good they are at their jobs. Let me just take a moment to remind you that every physician who has traumatized a woman during birth, or really even a midwife who has not taken care of a woman the way that she should, or whatever the path is that has led so many of you to me, which is oftentimes seeing the flaws in the system, those people who led you my direction all have certifications, whether it be MD, CNM, CPM, whatever the case may be. Okay? Certification does not equal someone being good at what they do. Certification is a means of control. I'm going to lead in with that because midwives specifically in many states, by submitting to certification, thinking it was going to lend credibility to our profession, have given up the ability to practice the way that we think is best. We have given up a lot. And many of us can't do certain things that we're trained to do if we don't have physicians over us, me being one of those. So I just want you to think about that, because it is very easy to get drawn into these traps. As I led in with, I reminded you that pretty much everything that we now wish we didn't have to deal with all came being sold to us as being best for us, as being what's going to serve us the best. And most of those things have not served us best. And this, I believe, is likely the same. So this is not an episode about whether or not you need a doula. Okay? Most of you need a doula. And I talked about that in episode 101. So you can go back if you're looking for an episode about whether or not you need a doula, episode 101 is the one for you. We're going to touch a little bit on what doulas do here, but that's not really the purpose of this episode. I'm going to assume in this episode that you already know what doulas do for their work and how they serve women. This episode is an effort to support doulas here in Tennessee and across the country who are having their businesses threatened by a push for a certification for them to be allowed to serve women and then to be reimbursed by insurance. That's the kicker. That's how they're trying to put this in place. Is a great thing. Yay, insurance will now cover doulas. And that seems good again on the surface, but we're going to talk a little bit more about why that might not be as good as it sounds. Remember that doulas are not medical. Okay, they participate in a medical process. They're present in, hospital births frequently, sometimes home births. And so it's a medical setting, but they're not medical. They are there to provide support, whether it be mentally or physically. They are there to support a mother during her time of labor and birth, and then also postpartum. Okay. They are there to educate moms and to help them to understand their choices and to help them to advocate for themselves during the birth process. They are not there to provide medical care. They do not receive medical training because that's not their role. Doulas are proven, by the way. There is a lot of statistics that support that having a doula present is really a good idea. When a mom chooses to have a doula present in her birth, her risk for C-section goes way down, maybe by as much as half. Her risk of needing an epidural goes way down. And that's just two things. There's a lot of things that doulas improve just by being there. Okay? They don't have to have medical training to accomplish what the medical system can't accomplish. Just by being present and providing that support that a woman desperately needs during this process, they improve the situation in ways that our medical system just can't. Okay? But that doesn't change whether or not they have some letters behind their name or a piece of paper saying that they are certified to do the thing. Okay? Currently, in some states, legislatures are calling for doulas to be certified, supposedly so that insurance companies, specifically government-funded insurance, like in Tennessee, Medicare, Medicaid, these types of things, or TennCare, I'm sorry, so that these insurance companies will cover the expenses of the doulas so that the parents don't have to. Okay? This is another instance of handing over our freedom in exchange for money. And I know that's hard because I know that some of you listening really want to have a doula present at your birth, and maybe you think you can't afford it and you really wish your insurance would pay for it. And I understand that. But I also need you to understand that when you give insurance that kind of power, they get the power to pay for it. They also get the power to control how doulas practice. And therein lies the problem. Because when we start worrying about giving a doula certification so that an insurance company will pay for it, well, that doula is going to have to provide care the way the insurance company dictates, maybe not the way that's best for mom. There's the problem. For one thing, though, I would say what certification is truly needed for a doula? And again, I say this with the utmost respect because doulas are, as I said before, proven. I was a doula. Doulas are a position and they play a role that is vital, and it is statistically proven to be beneficial. but they're not trained medically. So what are we certifying? Their support is priceless, but their support is the same support that in the past mothers, grandmothers, sisters used to provide. Because, see, used to, back in history when natural birth was the norm, by the time you would have your baby, you had already seen many other women have their babies because you've been present maybe as a kid, and then as a teenager, and then as the early 20s. And you'd been at many births because women supported women in the villages and women supported women in their families. It was just the way things were. And so, because of all that exposure and all of that really on the job training, it's not what it was called, but all the experience they were receiving, they were doulas. These women were doulas for each other. They were helping one another. They just didn't call themselves doula. It's just a different title. They just called themselves mom or grandmother or sister. But did they need a certification to be able to be there and be present with their friend, mom, daughter, whoever? Well, of course they didn't. That wasn't needed. Doulas, see, to become a doula seeks the training of their choice. Okay, there's several different organizations that they can seek training from, and then they go through their certification process if they choose, and they receive the documentation from those different organizations if they choose. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they get training in other ways. But here's the thing, they are providing physical, emotional, and psychological support to a mother as she's bringing her baby into the world and in the time after birth. They are not providing a medical service that we need to make sure they know how to do it specifically. Like they need to take a certification test showing that they know that they understand this or that disease process, or they understand this or that thing. There's providing the support that really women are built to be able to give one another. But they're filling it in a way that oftentimes we don't have in our families anymore because, you know, our moms probably had babies in hospitals. Our grandmothers probably had babies in hospitals. And while they may want to support their daughters or their granddaughters, they may not have the tools to. And that's where doulas come in. They have the tools because they've sought out that type of training, or maybe they've had it themselves, they've had the experience themselves. And so they're filling a role that families used to fill that they can't really fill that well anymore, but it's not a role that requires a certain specific skill set. It is something that most women have ingrained in us. We just need to flesh it out, and we just need to be able to provide it in a way that is effective. And the types of people who want to provide this type of care to a mom are the types of people who seek out this role. This type of experience is just not normal anymore. This type of ability to support women is not normal anymore because the medical system and birth has become so medicalized and so industrialized that you really kind of have to seek out that experience, whether it be through your own births or being around other people's births, and then you're prepared to help women. And doulas have become more popular as women want to labor naturally, but their families just can't provide the support that they need. So doulas have a history of being around natural birth, understanding it, and being able to help mothers through it in ways that families just don't really know how to do anymore in a lot of cases. Obviously, not all cases, but in a lot of cases. Okay, so knowing that, why is this certification issue really coming up? What's really going on here? Well, from my perspective, it's control. It's about control. And honestly, that's usually what the issue is with certifications. See, back when midwives started receiving these certifications, it was received as good news. Yay, now doctors will respect us. Yet now insurance companies will pay for our care. Has that worked out? Have we received more respect? Have we received coverage from insurance companies? Very few of us have. And very few of us receive that type of respect. Some do, but it's not because of the certification. It's because of how we practice and the way we've shown ourselves to be competent. Initially, this whole bill, the whole system, the whole let's get doula certified centered around the issue of getting reimbursement for doula services from state medical programs, as I mentioned before, like Medicaid. But even if that was a good reason, which it's not, That element, at least in the Tennessee bill, has actually since been removed. It's not even there anymore. So it was introduced as a way to get doulas paid, but now that part's gone. So I feel like that the likely answer here is that the reason this is coming up is because the medical staff, doctors, nurses, whomever, do not like the pushback that they get from patients who have doulas present. And so they want to be able to keep their thumb on them. They want to be able to have a say in how doulas do their job. See, patients who have doulas often interrupt the workflow of the medical staff. They have their flow of what they do day in and day out and how they want to do it. And when a doula has educated a mom and the mom decides to say no to something, that throws things off. They don't like that pushback. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I got a little caught up there in my speech. So doulas educate women. They help them learn how to advocate for themselves. And when they advocate for themselves, that messes things up for the regular everyday flow of the work that needs to get done. So if the powers that be can manage to get some generalized certification required of doulas, they will be able to control what the doulas can do and what they can't do, in the same way that they control what midwives can do and can't do, even if they don't have a clue midwives' capabilities or what a natural birth even looks like. They still get to control. The same thing, like I said, the same thing happens to midwives, and it's happened to a lot of different, as they call us, mid-level providers. I hate that term. But by giving us these certifications, they've gained control over professions that they don't understand. And now we're having to practice the way they say that we have to practice in order to be recognized as being legitimate. Again, this is under the same guise of legitimacy that that certification brings. Traditional midwives, under that same guise, lost their ability to provide women the type of care that they've been providing for centuries, because they now have to do things or they'll be in legal jeopardy. They have to not do things or they'll be in legal jeopardy. Even when they don't feel like it's the best care for the moms, they are restricted in what they're allowed to do and what they're told they can't do. And this is what will inevitably creep into the doula's profession when these certifications become standard. Some other problems. Some states like Tennessee are requiring a board to be formed. So a board, like people who control, access, licensure, certification, whatever terminology you want to use. They're requiring these boards to be formed. And the dues for the certification are going to have to be high enough to cover the salary of the members of this board. Specifically in Tennessee, if I remember correctly, they're requiring the board to have 3 different positions. And those positions' salaries are going to add up to almost $300,000. Well, there's not that many doulas in Tennessee, or really any state. So the board salaries are so crazy high for such a relatively small number of doulas that the certification fees in some cases are going to be higher than even the fees are for medical professionals. And doulas, while they are invaluable, because they are support roles, they are not medical roles with the medical training, they can't command fees as high as a medical provider can, which makes the doula certification fee an inequitably high fee for them. Again, relatively speaking, I mentioned this a second ago, there's not that many doulas relative to many other professions. So why is there such a big emphasis on certifying doulas, a group that's relatively small? Again, they don't provide medical care. And I'm not reiterating and beating this in to delegitimize them. Quite the opposite. I'm emphasizing it to legitimize them and to show why they don't need a piece of paper to be able to help women. So if they don't provide medical care, they don't need to know how to do certain procedures. They don't need to know how to do testing, interpret testing. They don't need to know how to do any of those things to be able to be there for women. They help support, they help educate. Why the big push? Why? Think about that. It's power. Some other boards have tried to get a board like this. Some other professions have tried to get boards like this. For instance, I'm told that lactation consultants have tried to seek out this type of certification in our state, and they were shut down. And they actually have more needed training than doulas do. They asked for the board and they were turned down. So why, if they asked for it and they were turned down, why is it that the board, that the group of people who don't want the board, the group of people who are pushing back against it and don't want this certification in places like Tennessee, why is it that they're getting the board even though they don't want it? Something's fishy here, y'all. Something is not adding up. But if you're paying attention, you know there's a lot of corrupt dealings happening in governments everywhere. Okay, and we're exposing it day by day of things that have been going on for years and years and years and years and years with money attached to it that hasn't been for our good. You also know that the medical establishment does not like women to turn to more natural ways of care. That takes from their bottom line. So all this feels a whole lot like a power grab to me. So if that doesn't sit well with you, like it doesn't sit well with me, let's help doulas save their profession so that they can keep helping women give birth the way that God designed them to. This bill's actually been rolled. When I first started writing this, it was still a very current issue, but it's been rolled forward to January. They kind of kicked the can down the road to January. So the direct heat of getting this taken care of right now is lessened a little bit, but that's good. That gives us time to help people like you understand the issue so you can get involved. This bill is going to come up again in Tennessee in January. If you're here and you want to support doulas, get in touch with one and see how you can help. Two that I know of who are very involved and they're very informed about this issue and they can help you find your place in this are Rebekah Porter, who is out of Nashville, and Amanda Garrison, who is out of Cookeville. I will put their contact information down in the show notes so that if you want to get involved, you can get in touch with them and they can help you know where and when and how to get involved. Both of them are doulas who have been active and involved, like I said, and they're very well respected in their communities. If you're in another state, I would encourage you to reach out to doulas in your area to see if this is an issue for you. I don't know each state. Obviously, there's 50 of them. I don't know each and every situation, but I know there are some other states where this has come up and it is a problem. And the thing is, the doulas are such a small group, again, relatively, and because of the nature of their work, they can't just be up at the Capitol all the time. They might be at births. They might be out with clients educating them. They have work they have to do, and they need the support of people besides just themselves. And so I hope that you will find a way to get involved. I plan on doing that when it comes back up in January, even if it just means just being present on the days that they're presenting their side of the story at your various state capitals. I know that gets a little scary sounding. I know it's like, I don't know about going and being involved in the government. It's not as scary as it sounds. I promise. I've done it before. And it's actually kind of neat to get in there and see the reality in all its hairy ugliness of how our government works or sometimes doesn't work. So I hope this has helped you understand this issue. I hope it inspires you to get involved to help doulas and maybe even help midwives, because in some states these issues are still brewing for midwives. We are having to work very hard to protect the world that we work in, because the medical system doesn't like how you are being informed. They don't like how much you're learning. They don't like how you're pushing back. And so what does that mean? Well, it means you're doing the right thing. It means you're hitting at the right spot. So keep at it. Keep supporting doulas. Keep supporting midwives. Keep seeking their care, because bills like this are actually evidence that we're making a lot of progress and we're gaining ground, and they don't like it, and they're trying to find ways to continue controlling us. But if we stay active, before long, there'll be more of us than there are of them. So don't give up. Keep fighting. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can email me. If you're in Tennessee and want to get involved again, reach out to Rebekah or Amanda. I'm going to put their information down in the show notes. Hope this has helped you a lot, and I hope to see you back here next week.